name for you.
All right, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Underestimated Podcast. It's your host, Jeremy. Y'all back with another episode. So, listen, I'm kind of running a little bit behind here. I'm going to try to record this as fast as I can and get this out to y'all as soon as possible. I took a little too much time to myself, and the process of uh, getting this episode planned out for y'all kind of had me speed racing a little bit, but it's now done. Let's talk about it. But so to get into it. Today we're going to be getting into the who I have as the top 10 teams in contention as championship contenders for the 2023 World Series Championship. Um so, we are slowly closing in on another great MLB season. The World Series is subjected to start around October 27th. So we definitely still have like what 3 more months or so before we get into the World Series. So we're gonna talk about who I got in my top 10, and let's get into it. So the kickstart this coming in at number 10 from the American League, more specifically the AL West. I have the Seattle Mariners. Now, in the wake of meeting all requirements for the MLB postseason in 2022 after a drawn out time of missing the dance, um, the Seattle Mariners are again back in the blend in 2023. It's fascinating to follow this group since they have a large number of similar um, patterns we saw from this gathering during the ordinary season before they had an unremarkable stretch for the main portion of the year and turn things on down the stretch, which they are rehashing this season. Beneath, we'll investigate the Mariners' chances of winning the American Association and Worldwide Championship and whether they're worth the support. Entering activity on August 5th, the Seattle Mariners are gridlocked with the Kansas City Royals, as they as the most smoking groups in the American Association, the American League. Um, the Mariners have won 3 in succession in 8 of their last 10 games, which has them 6 games back in the AL West and 2.5 games behind in the special case race. With 52 games left in the ordinary season for Seattle, there's a positively time to cut into both of those shortfalls and make a run at a season finisher spot. On the off chance that the Mariners desire to make a run over the last 2 months of the normal season, they require additional consistency for their batting requests. Pitching has been a critical strength for this gathering, which makes them sit top 5 in the American League in runs permitted. Luis Castillo has given them a bona fide expert and a pitcher that is in the blend for the AL Cy Young Award, with Logan Gilbert and George Kirby having given them one of the most unique triplets of starters in all of the MLB. Since the Mariners aren't as of now in a finisher spot, there's some gamble related with support them to win the American League. In any case, we like the number at plus 2,500 and emphatically feel there's a worth to be had here. Pitching and protection brings home titles, which ought to just make you more in depth with the Mariners. In saying that, though, their setup passes on a ton to be wanted, knowing that it's challenging to project what you'll get from it day to day. There are a ton of superb hitters in this group. However, as in aggregate gathering, they've battled to score runs at a sufficient rate to be a genuine competitor. the greatest danger the Mariners could have going for them is that Julio Rodriguez, it hasn't performed up to the assumptions this year. He has a 740 operations subsequent to recording a 854 operations in his freshman season. On the off chance that he can track down his stroke down the stretch and into the postseason, Seattle's roof turns out to be a lot higher than expected. With the three and number arms at the highest point of their turn, anything is possible for this group, and there is an explanation that their long shots to win the World Series at about plus 6,500. However, we feel there's some worth in that merits considering. Okay, so that took a lot. When I've been trying to, read what I'd be typing off, and anyway, so as of today, August 14th, 2023, the Mariners have a current record of 63-54, which would have them third in the AL West, along with a 54 win percentage. They also have a home record of 34-28 and away record of 29-26. They have scored 531 total this season as a team. 473 allowed runs as a team this season, and a current runs differential of 58. Now, really, this is, believe it or not, a tough episode for me. Whenever I make an episode about this, talking with teams or players that I personally don't gravitate towards or have any kind of fandom towards, it's kind of boring to me. But all things considered, I still have love for the sport, so I still find somewhat of an enjoyment in it. And I say that because if y'all watched my previous MLB episode where I did the prediction awards for the regular season, y'all would know that the team that I personally am a fan of when it pertains to the MLB is the New York Yankees. And, well, not to make any spoilers here, but it's not like y'all don't know anyway. They unfortunately did not make this list for me. I tried very hard to try to fit them in here. I could have put them in as an honorable mention, but I just didn't want to do all that. So it kind of sucks I don't get to talk about them here. But they got a little bit of a 10-second little plug in the vid. So I guess it's okay, right? Now with the Mariners, I'm not gonna really get too interested into this until we get to like the 6th spot, because I kind of put the less liked or scouted teams towards the bottom. So we can kind of just talk about them quick and get them out of the way. But the Mariners, surprisingly, have had an amazing season despite who's on their personnel. You look at the personnel that they have on their roster, and it's like no guys reach, like a name brand type of reaction that you would usually get from other players in the MLB. And I kind of just see them as a team who has, you have some teams that have that player is like the name brand player who's the driving force, and they just kind of, fall in line behind him. But the Mariners don't necessarily have that. They just have a group of collective great players to kind of just get it done as a whole, to where they kind of just equal up to that one star player that you have to build around and end up falling behind, because they don't necessarily pass, the eye test when looking at them from a personnel and viewership standpoint. I think they have a good shot to win the World Series. As with them being 10th on my list, they're not my betting favorite if my life or money is on the line to get it done. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they still have a pretty sufficient chance to win the World Series. I mean, I don't know how far they'll get, though, because we have a lot more ball left to be played, and a lot of things can definitely happen. All right, so A little further into it, we are now at number nine. Number nine being from the American League, more specifically the AL West, the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers have demonstrated to be holding nothing back on 2023. Coming full circle with the procurement of future corridor of popularity pitcher um, Max Scherzer from the New York Mets as one of the MLB exchange cutoff time's greatest moves. Scherzer's obtaining and affects the Rangers' chances to win the World Series, alongside the wagering lines of different groups. As Frantic Max sets to contribute Arlington as a Ranger, interestingly, why did I just dread that day? Interestingly, we're taking a gander at refreshed MLB World Series chances. The Rangers abbreviated from around a plus 1100 worldwide championship competitor to a plus 900 following the expansion of Scherzer, a three-time Cy Young winner and the 2019 World Series champion. They sit fifth behind the Atlanta Braves, the LA Dodgers, Tampa Bay Rays, and Houston Astros. The Overcomes, without a doubt, set up the best stretch of baseball of any group driving into the elite player break. They have the best record in MLB as well as ranked third in scoring and fifth in period, which legitimizes their situation as the World Series top choice. The Rangers have been the best group in the AL for the vast majority of the year. However, have run into some bad luck as of late, winning only 6 of their last 22 games. The Dodgers have been a lot of the inverse and are flooding towards the postseason as they routinely do. Texas Rangers gained veteran pro Max Scherzer from the New York Mets in return for Luis Sango Acuna, a 21-year-old infielder and the third position prospect in Texas's homestead framework. Scherzer was in the second year of a 3-year, $130 million deal arrangement with the Mets and postponed his no exchange condition to take the action of the solitary star state. He is 9-4 with a 4.01 period and a 1.14 whip this season. Eminently, that time is the third most obviously terrible of his 16-year profession and the most awful beginning around 2011. As of July 29th, the day of the exchange, the Rangers had the third best record in the American League and the fourth best record in the MLB, behind the Braves, Baltimore Orioles, and Tampa Bay Rays. Scherzer will opening pleasantly into a pivot of beginning pitchers that have the sixth best consolidated period in baseball. So as of now, the Texas Rangers have a overall team record of 70-48, posting them as the number one team in the AL West, along with a 59 win percentage. To break it down even further, they have a home record of 40-20 and a away record of 30-28. They have scored 672 runs as a collective unit, 491 runs allowed as a team this season, and a current run differential of 181. So, with the Texas Rangers, I don't see them, like I said, they're in the same boat. Pretty much the bottom of this list is pretty much in the same boat of how I feel about their chances are with winning the World Series. But when you have someone on your team, even though he's kind of getting up in age now, as it pertains to Max Scherzer, I keep like I'm messing his names up. Scherzer. Max Scherzer. Um, I got tongue twister there, but nah. So when you have somebody like him, as great as he is, in my eyes, first ballot Hall of Famer, and still, regardless of his age, one of the best pitchers in the game. Um, you definitely have a fighting chance um, to win the World Series because Max Scherzer can definitely, um, Mad Max can strike out a lot of the guys who are the top guys in the MLB. It's just all about whether his teammates, which they've been apparently able to do so far this season with the 70-48 record, putting them first in the AL West, and 59% of their games, have been able to fall behind him at a pretty sufficient and comfortable rate. Because if they're not able to, then I'm not sure, especially where Max Scherzer is in his career, are going to be able to even make any type of noise because he's a pitcher. He's not, he doesn't bat. Um, and so because of that, he can only affect them on one side of the ball, which is from a pitching perspective. But I believe in Max. I don't have much faith in the Rangers though. But like I said, I got faith in Max Scherzer, and you got him on your squad. Anything is pretty much possible, if I do say so myself. At number 8, coming from the American League, more specifically the AL East, I have the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, the race at the highest point of the AL East is one of the most impenetrable in baseball. Any goof can see you tumble quite far. In the hardest division in the MLB, the Orioles are presently sitting in the lead position while the Tampa Bay Rays long the group to bet, long the long the group to beat. I'm sorry, slipping 1.5 games behind them. However, the Tampa Bay Rays have recently closed an arrangement that sees their physical issue perplexed pivot supported, sending their top, a respectable starting point prospect Cal Monzardo to Cleveland in return for right Gabe starter Aaron Savall. Savall has an exceptional 2.34 time this season with 58 strikeouts on a 77 um, innings pitched for a 1.04 whip. In the wake of losing Jeffrey Springs and Drew Rasmussen for the season, the greatest requirement for the Rays has been in that overwhelmed revolution. With Jordan Montgomery managed to the officers and I'm sorry, that would be the Rangers, excuse me. And Marcus Stroman apparently at this point not accessible. The Rays expected to look further away from home. A fantastic breaking ball seller, Savall will add critical profundity to the Rays pivot and ease the heat off of their exhausted warm-up area. Savall will probably opening in with Shane McClanahan and Tyler Glasnow, Zach Eflin, and Taj Bradley to give the Rays a genuine five-man turn. The main concern for the Rays, though, is that Savall has been hounded by injury for a large portion of his expert profession, and they should crush something like 25 innings work from him, assuming that they are to drive into the postseason. The Tampa Bay Rays are a true blue worldwide championship competitor, and with this expansion to their revolution, everything is falling perfectly into place on the Bay Coast. So, to take a deeper dive into what the Tampa Bay Rays have going on this season, they have a current team record as of now with 41 wins and 71 wins and 49 losses, making them the second best team overall record wise in the AL East, along with a 59 win percentage. They have a home record that is 40 and 22, and also an away record that's 31 and 27. They have scored 620 runs this season as a team and allowed 481 runs this season as a team, with a runs difference of 139. So when it pertains to the Tampa Bay Rays, it's not a team that I'm very fond of either. Um, but another team that I see that apparently is just one of those teams who doesn't really have that profound star, but has a team with kind of sufficient mid-level players to kind of come together as a collective unit to give them the production and usage of your typical star player. I think they kind of fall on the same boat with the Texas Rangers and the Baltimore Orioles. Um, as to not making it far into the postseason, but still having a pretty high sufficient chance of still making it to that point and getting there. Yeah, I don't think they have much of a chance to win the World Series this season, but they still do have a pretty good fighting chance. Um, so I'm not going to spend much more time on them. Let's go ahead and move over to number 7, which is from the American League, more specifically the AL East, the Baltimore Orioles. So, assuming you had let us know back in spring that the Baltimore Orioles would have the sixth most limited um, World Series championship chances at plus 1300, we certainly could not have possibly trusted you. In some cases, the postseason spotlight can get the better of youthful players. However, we don't get the sense that will be the situation for Adley Rushman or Gunnar Henderson. The central explanation that the Orioles have jumped the beams, the Rays, well, rather, in the AL East has been the play of their youths, and we anticipate that they should go into October. The Orioles' ongoing chances have them in the main six and isolated from the following level of groups. They should be there as soon as humanly possible, yet their chances presumably ought to be higher in this gathering of six. The absence of postseason experience has all through this list could catch up with them. However, we're willing to make a bet on their childhood conveying. In any case, with a problematic revolution that might battle into October, searching for esteem somewhere else on the board is what we propose doing here. So as of now, the Baltimore Orioles have a current team record of 73 and 45, which would put them first in the AL East, along with a 62 win percentage. To break down even further, they have a home record of 36 and 23, and away record of 37 and 22. They have 575 runs scored as a team this season and allowed 510 runs as a team this season with a runs differential of 65. Now, I will say this. Do I see them winning it? No. But the future is very promising if you have any ties towards or with the Baltimore Orioles. If you are part of management, if you are personnel on the team, a player that has a long-term contract or just here there for the time being, because or if you're a fan as well. But if you look at it, Gunnar Henderson is gonna be great. He's already coming off at having a great rookie season, and I had him in my top 3 contention. If you want to go watch my awards picks for the MLB season this year as the rookie of the year in the American League, and he might have a good shot at it. I don't remember if I picked him, but I do remember his name, so that's why I was reading just now. Gunnar Henderson is a dog, man. Gunnar Henderson can definitely play. I don't think, all things considered, he's ready or is in a position yet to lead the Baltimore Orioles, this young and with this less of experience, to the tunnel and winning the World Series this season. Okay, so now we move along to number 6, which who is no further from the American League, more specifically the AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays. While Jose Bautista featured Toronto's weekend series at Rogers Center, there was a decent measure of others whose news around the Blue Jays, from reliever Julian Merriweather's rehabilitation of a group of injury updates, and that's the tip of the iceberg. Here's the most recent around the group. So Julian Merriweather came to Toronto confronting impossible assumptions. A 26-year-old possibility pitcher halfway through a Tommy John recuperation, Merriweather had the weight of being exchanged for 2015 AL MVP Josh Donaldson. Briefly in 2021, it appeared as though Merriweather could defeat at some degree a piece of that weight, dicing through the Yankees setup to procure the group's more memorable save at the time. However, wounds and homers eventually turned into the subhead of his Blue Jays part. At the point where Merriweather was guaranteed off waivers by Fle- um, the Fledglings in 2022, he completed his Toronto residency with a 5.64 time in 52.2 innings. Regardless of barely gripping onto a postseason position, the Blue Jays are as yet preferred in season finisher chances. Fangraphs allows Toronto a 57.4% chance of opportunity of making the World Series as of Sunday, with a 3.4% shot of winning the World Series. Simply 7 days prior, however, Toronto's season finisher chances sat as high as 75%. While we're moving towards scoreboard and standings watching time for fans and media individuals, Charles Bassett will not be participating. He quoted to say that I've been in that trap quite some time ago, Bassett said after Sunday's beginning. It won't ever end up working. Assuming that your scoreboard watching or standings watching, it never ends up working of all time. One of the off chances that you're discussing another group, it won't ever end up working. So don't stress over anybody yet yourself. The Seattle Mariners have flooded once more into season finisher dispute, running through a 8-1 record since exchange cutoff time day. While the Blue Jays may as yet push up the table, it sure appears as though it will be a Seattle versus Toronto fight for the last special case um, down the stretch. For a large portion of time, the Blue Jays smacked away their injury bug. Yet it's piece hard as of late. Here are some injury refreshers from across the list. So, shortstop Bo Bichette um, keeps on expanding his pregame responsibilities as he recovers from his right patellar tendonitis injury. Throughout the end of the week, the Blue Jays are probably going to send him on a brief recovery task in Bison before he gets back to the Toronto setup. CL Jordan Romano pitched a recovery inning with the AAA Buffaloes on Sunday. He permitted 2 hits and no runs, arriving at 14 pitches. The Blue Jays are going for the gold, rejoin the MLB warm-up area on Tuesday. Third baseman Matt Chapman was scratched from Sunday's arrangement with right center finger um, irritation. He experienced the injury in the weight room, squeezing the digit between loads. The off day comes at a great time, Schneider said, as Chapman isn't supposed to miss a lot or any additional time. Relief pitcher Trevor Richards hurt his neck and pitched a warm up area meeting on Friday and looked perfect, Schneider said. The Jays are expecting to get him back on or soon after Thursday when he's qualified to fall off the injury list. Center fielder Kevin Kiermaier has been hitting and doing protective drills since going into the injury list with an elbow slash. And he is on target to be adequated when he's qualified. So the Baltimore Orioles, I'm sorry, the Toronto Blue Jays. We talk about the Orioles. The Blue Jays. The Blue Jays. Um, they have a current team record of 66-54, which will make them third in the AL East, along with a 55 win percentage, a home record of 31-26, and a away record of 35-28, with 540 runs scored as a team this season, along with 481 runs allowed this year as a team. Now, the Orioles, I'm sorry, the Blue Jays have a couple of pieces that are pretty sufficient to get them to the World Series and also winning it. I think they are definitely a sleeper team to win the World Series this year. You have a guy like Matt Chapman, as great as a player that he is from the third baseman spot, along with another young guy who also had in pretty contention for the 2023 MVP in the American League, Mr. Bo Bichette. Great guy, can play very, very well. And I think that, just like I said with Gunnar Henderson, if you are a Toronto Blue Jays fan or part of the organization or part of the player personnel, whether that be long term or further now, you definitely should stick around to see the upbringing of what Bo Bichette has to come in his MLB career. So now that brings us to the top five. Oh, I didn't mention this. I'm sorry. They also have a runs differential that currently stands at 59. So now let's get to number five, which is from the National League, more specifically the NL East, the Philadelphia Phillies. The Philadelphia Phillies are the guarding public, the National League champions, the defending National League champions. And as of Tuesday, Significant Association Baseball delivered the 2023 postseason plan, providing the Phillies with a brief look at what their way could be to return to the World Series on the off chance that the Phillies can't get the Atlanta Braves to win the National League East. The Phillies could wind up in the wild card series, which begins on October 3rd, only 2 days after the finishing of the normal season. The Phillies' race to the World Series last season began in the wild card series, where they beat the St. Louis Cardinals in 2 games. Philadelphia is wanting to come to the postseason in consecutive seasons, interestingly, starting around 2010-2011, which covered a stretch of 5 straight postseason appearances, including their 2008 Worldwide Championship title. The Phillies would either have each of the 3 games or be out, and about for every one of 3 of the wild card series contingent on cultivating on the off chance that the Phillies can get the Braves, they would probably have a record sufficient to be one of the main 2 seeds and get a bye into the NL Division Series, which begins on October 7th. The wild card end of the season games are set for October 3rd through the 5th. The NL Division Series are a best of five series that will begin on October 7th and end no later than October 14th. And the NL Championship Series as a best of seven series will begin on October 16th and end no later than October 24th. Should the Phillies get to the World Series as a best of seven series, it would begin on October 27th and end no later than November 4th. So that's just like a schedule breakdown of what's to come for the Phillies. But I'm gonna just say this to just keep it as simple as it gets for the Philadelphia Phillies. If you have any attachment, like I said, with any of these other teams, with the Philadelphia Phillies, these two words alone, this name by itself, should let you know that you are having a fighting chance to secure this World Series championship. And that is a guy by the name of Bryce Harper. When you have a Bryce Harper, former MVP, on your roster, regardless of how old he is now, he is still a dog and still is top of the top of talent, top 10 tier in talent in the MLB. You got Bryce Harper. I think anything is possible. Um, it's just that you got to have the right pieces around him. I don't think they have, when you stack up against other great teams that only have one great player, but four or five name brand players, Bryce Harper is going to be a version of himself where he can overshadow four or five stars with him all by himself. So now, as we move into the number four spot, coming from the National League, more specifically the NL Central, that would be the Milwaukee Brewers. In all honesty, the Milwaukee Brewers, who are currently at a record of 65-54, head into the week with a 3.5 game lead in the National League, focal over both the Cincinnati Reds and the Chicago Bears. I'm sorry, Chicago Cubs. It's the biggest division lead any group has had this season in the focal. There's some risk not too far off with a three-city exclusion and a line of three straight series against the lead position groups. Yet for the time being, Milwaukee has a pleasant route. It's 41 to win the division, securing a preferred record over the Cubs. The Brewers have a 3.5 game lead over Chicago and Cincinnati. However, the Whelps are in somewhat better shape, just 3 games behind the Brewers in the misfortune section rather than Cincinnati, which is 4 back. The Brewers own an enchanted number of 40 to get done with the preferred record over the Reds. 41 against the Marlins, 39 against the Diamondbacks, and 36 against the Padres. In the event that Milwaukee wraps up in front of that large number of groups, it will be ensured basically a wild card spot. The enchanted number is the complete number of results that need to go ideal for a group to get a season finisher spot. At this moment, that implies any mix of Brewers wins or misfortunes constantly place group. The Whelps for the present. Amounting to the enchanted number will get the job done. It's a quite simple computation. Take the general number of games in a season, 162 for this situation, deduct the success of the primary spot group. The Brewers have 65. And the misfortunes of the closest contender, the Whelps, have 57. That provides you with various 40. You likewise need to add 1 in light of the fact that the objective is to win out and not just to get done with the tie record. So that is various 41. The Brewers have a 4-3 series lead over the Cubs with 6 games to play, and that is a significant sudden death round to have. With it, though, Milwaukee could tie the Fedlings in the standings regardless with the division. The Brewers currently own the sudden death round against the Reds. The remaining 2 division victories by record acquire first round buys in the National League end of the season games. How about we simply offer our appreciation to the Braves, who are 75-42, 11 games in front of the Brewers? They will get one of those two byes, accepting a flat out implosion. The Dodgers, 746, 7 games in front of the Brewers, are reachable, yet it's getting grim there as well. The Brewers would have to sidestep the Dodgers and win the division to get a first round bye. For sudden death round thought, the Brewers trailed the season series against the Dodgers 2-1 with 3 games to play. If Milwaukee has a desire to sidestep the Dodgers, it'll likely require them to pull off an implausible scope this week. So, after all that being said, the Milwaukee Brewers have a current record, like I said earlier, of 65-54, which will put them at number one, first in the NL Central, along with a 55 win percentage. They have a home record that is 33-27, and a away record of 32-27, along with a runs differential of 6. So when it all boils down to what to expect with the Milwaukee Brewers, I just say the one name that comes to mind automatically, of course, would be Christian Yelich. With the generational, sensational talent that he is, I definitely think that he's going to give them a great, successful plan to get them a deep run into the playoffs. And I believe they can pretty much end up, in that last 4 or 5 teams that are in contention for the World Series. That they think will have enough to win it. Not necessarily unless Christian Yelich ends up playing out of his mind, which isn't obviously impossible, but not a substantial guarantee. Now let's move forward. Now, usually, y'all know when I make lists like this, my usual intention is to always let the defending champion be the number one on the list, but that just didn't happen this time. Simply because now at number 3, I have from the American League, more specifically the AL West, the Houston Astros. At the point when Justin Verlander left the Houston Astros after the World Series title last season to take a major compensation day with the New York Mets, it seemed like the conclusion of a significant time period. Regardless of pitching with the Detroit Tigers for 13 seasons and winning the Rookie of the Year and Cy Young and MVP grant during his residency, Verlander has felt like a staple of the Astros association. All things considered, he won 2 Cy Youngs and 2 World Series titles during his 6 years with the Astros. In any case, proprietor Jim Crane let him walk, not having any desire to pay him however much the Mets were ready to offer. Then at that point, at the exchange cutoff time with his group a tight division race and not performing like earlier seasons, he concluded that he needed his old ace back in the clubhouse. With Verlander back in the pivot, a lot of people think that they have a genuine opportunity to win the World Series in consecutive seasons. Will Leach stated that on the off chance that Verlander remains Verlander, this is a startling postseason group again that appears like an undersell in numerous ways because the Astros are hitting start to finish can face any program in the association. At the point when they get top pitching, they're for all intents and purposes magnificent. At this moment, the 40-year-old is playing his best baseball of all time. In his last 6 beginnings, he has a record of 4-1 with the period of 1.69. Verlander is, by all accounts, the unaccounted for part in a youthful, unpracticed pivot. In the event that he can keep on playing at the general he's been at all through his whole vocation, he'll be a central point in Houston's recurrent endeavors. So yeah, I don't see the Houston Astros repeating. Although how great Justin Verlander is, and their team is as a collective unit, me personally, I just do not think, with the way the league stacks up this season, that they have what it takes, per se, to win the World Series again this season. So currently, the Houston Astros has a team record of 68-51, which would place them second in the AL West with a 57 win percentage. They currently have a home record of 33-26 and a away record of 35-25. They have 580 runs scored as a team this season. Have 494 runs allowed as a team this season, with a runs differential of 86. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into number two. Coming in at number two from the National League, more specifically the NL West, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, Dave Roberts has had the delight of being the director of the Los Angeles Dodgers beginning around 2016. He has been the World Series champion threefold and trained a lot of various stars throughout the long term and driven groups that posted bombastic success sums. Be that as it may, this season's group is unique. The Dodgers have handled groups under Roberts that drove MLB in wins, came to the fall expiry, and surprisingly won everything. However, Roberts said that this Dodgers group is his number one crew that he's had at any point, may do as indicated by Weave Nightingale of USA Today Sports. I love this club. At the end of the day, I truly love it. It was a very close gathering, as I've seen, Roberts said to USA Today Sports. It is an extremely unselfish gathering while I'm requesting that pitcher contribute different jobs and for hitters to assume in various parts and for folks to anything that it takes to win a ball game, that is being a decent colleague. I have 26 of those folks. That has been our mystery ingredient all through the wounds, the irregularities. There were low assumptions outside of our own clubhouse, yet I will let you know this. Great groups strike down ways of winning. Alternately, they are groups that simply don't have the foggiest idea of how to win. Yet again, the Dodgers have one of the 5 best keeps in baseball and seem as though they can fight for a World Series championship. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman actually rank as well as pretty much anybody. Will Smith, Max Muncy, James Outman, and JD Martinez gather together a terrifying hitting center. The Dodgers' pitching has been unstable at various focuses, yet have Clayton Kershaw, Julio Urias, Tony Gonzalez, Bobby, Evan Phillips, and Brusdar Graterol to go after restricting arrangements. He added Spearland and Joe Kelly to assist the pitching staff, in addition to elixir players Kike Hernandez and Arn Rosario. Hernandez is back for a second spell on the Dodgers and pushing the incredible energies along. Different Dodgers groups were burdened with huge assumptions that they didn't satisfy. This one actually has elevated requirements at the same time as Roberts makes sense of establishes a sound climate where players need to win for one another. Groups like the Atlanta Braves will hinder them. However, those Dodgers are an extremely capable bundle. The post-Roberts era starts up the World Series Championship Trust by announcing 2023 Dodgers hits most loved group showed up first on clutch points. The Dodgers currently have a record of 71-46, which is first in the NL West with a 60 win percentage. A home record that stands at 38-20, and a away record that stands at 33-26. They have 664 runs scored as a team this season, along with 528 runs allowed this season as a team, along with a runs differential that stands at 136. Now, the Dodgers on paper, and well, as you can tell by the way they play, have the best constructed roster in the league, which is why I add them at the top of my list with at number 2, not 1. Simply because that even though that roster that they have over there is very stellar and very far from lackluster. It's not unbeatable. If it was unbeatable, then they have more World Series as of late than they've had, actually. Like you have Mookie Betts, you got Clayton Kershaw, Max Muncy, JD Martinez. So I mean, you got the people to get it done. I wouldn't be surprised if they win the World Series because they had the roster to do it. I mean, I think they have a super team over there, which is something you don't see very often in baseball. But I just still think my number one team is just slightly better, well suited to win it, as opposed to the Dodgers, which moves me into my number one spot from the National League being from the NL East, the Atlanta Braves. The 2022 Braves were exceptional, completing the ordinary season with a 101-61 record and catching in front of the pack in a troublesome National League Association East Division. The Braves lost the interdivision series to the Philadelphia Phillies last year 3-1. However, not entirely settled to put that behind them, pushing ahead. The current year's group is stunningly better. The Braves can hit. The Braves can pitch. Also, the Braves can play protection. Furthermore, the Braves win. The Braves' record is 72-40, the best in baseball at that time. They are 10.5 games in front of the Philadelphia Phillies in the Public Association East, despite the fact that they have ran into somewhat of a difficult situation of late. They are as yet the group to beat. Every one of the fixings are set up for Braves fans to see an extended postseason with baseball at its best at Truist Park in Atlanta. I just personally believe that as great as the Dodgers roster is constructed, the Braves have more of a chemistry with their roster, if that makes sense. But that series, I feel like they're going to be the two teams that are going to be competing to come out of the National League and represent the National League in the World Series. So that conference division series is going to be a very, very, very good series to watch. It might be the World Series, like have that type of feel with how it is. But the Braves currently have a record of 75-42, which would make them first in the NL East with a 64 win percentage, a home record of 37-20, and away record of 38-22. They have 684 runs scored this season, along with 491 runs allowed, with a runs differential of 193. So yep, that is it, y'all. I have the Atlanta Braves winning the 2023 World Series championship behind the potential MVP of the National League being Ronald Acuna Jr. So that's it. That's gonna cap out this episode. I hope y'all enjoyed. Stay tuned. I will be back Wednesday. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It would really help. I see y'all be watching the videos, and also I love it. But subscribe, man. That'll help me a little bit more than you just watching me. So if you're watching me, if you ain't subscribed, you're weird. Stop being weirdos. Stop being goofies. If you're on Spotify, don't forget to give the channel a 5-star rating and a follow. And also share it everywhere that you can. Tell your mom, your auntie, your uncle, your pet lizard, and your TV in your kitchen. Yeah. I see y'all Wednesday, man. Don't forget to always remember to don't underestimate, appreciate. And without further ado, I'm gone.